All right, bookworms, get ready, because today we're diving headfirst into a stack of brand new book releases.
Five, to be exact.
Five. And the best part, you get a sneak peek into each one without even cracking a spine. Think of it like a literary tasting menu.
Precisely. We've distilled each book down to its most tantalizing elements, giving you a taste of the plot, the characters, the atmosphere, and the big questions they raise.
Exactly. And we're pulling all this goodness from the latest Deep Dives with Smart Bookworms episode.
Always a fantastic source for fresh book recommendations.
Always. Now, our mission today is to help you figure out which of these literary gems, if any, deserve a spot on your ever-growing to-read pile. So are you ready to embark on this literary adventure with us?
Let's dive in.
First up, we have The Secret of the Three Fates by Jess Armstrong. Picture this: 1920s Scotland, a mysterious castle, a murder, and a bookseller who finds herself right in the thick of it.
It's a classic whodunit with a twist. Our protagonist, Ruby Vaughn, is a modern woman in a world that's still clinging to tradition.
She's independent, intelligent, and not afraid to challenge the status quo. But things take a dark turn when she attends a séance at a remote Scottish estate, Manhurst Castle.
Oh, Manhurst Castle, a character in its own right, steeped in history and shrouded in an eerie atmosphere.
Right. It's like something out of a Gothic novel. And speaking of eerie, the séance goes horribly wrong. Someone ends up dead, and guess who becomes the prime suspect?
Our intrepid Ruby, of course.
Naturally. And to make matters even more complicated, there's a secret group lurking in the shadows, the Eruditions. They're obsessed with contacting the dead, and their pursuit of knowledge adds a layer of moral ambiguity to the story.
It makes you question how far is too far in the pursuit of understanding the afterlife.
Right. Are they crossing a line? Are their intentions truly noble? Or is there something more sinister at play?
Ooh, the suspense is already killing me.
Well, hold on tight, because our next book takes us to a completely different world. Private Rights by Julia Armfield. This one is literary horror with a speculative twist. Buckle up. We're talking about three sisters dealing with grief, family drama, and, just a casual city sinking under relentless rain.
Sounds relatable, right?
What?
Well, maybe not the sinking city part. But the themes of grief, loss, and the struggle to connect in a world that feels increasingly chaotic, definitely relatable.
Totally. And that relentless rain, it's not just weather. It's a metaphor for the emotional turmoil these characters are going through.
Precisely. Armfield uses the setting to reflect the psychological state of her characters.
Yeah.
The city's slow disintegration mirrors their own sense of fragmentation and unease.
And then there's this ritual called the granting that the youngest sister, Agnes, is targeted for. The book doesn't explicitly explain what it is, which just adds to the unsettling atmosphere.
It's like this looming threat, this unknown force that hangs over the characters, creating a sense of dread and anticipation.
Exactly. What is this granting? Who's behind it? And what does it mean for Agnes?
So many questions.
All right, time to switch gears again. We're traveling back in time to ancient Greece with The Voyage Home by Pat Barker.
This is the third book in her Women of Troy trilogy, and it's a must-read for anyone who loves Greek mythology but wants a fresh perspective.
Because instead of focusing on the heroes and battles we're all familiar with, Barker tells the story from the perspective of the women who were enslaved after the fall of Troy.
It's a powerful reimagining that gives voice to those who were often silenced in traditional accounts. We follow them on their harrowing journey back to Greece alongside their captors.
And the main character is none other than Cassandra, the Trojan princess, cursed with the gift of prophecy but doomed never to be believed.
Imagine having the knowledge to prevent disaster but being powerless to stop it. That's Cassandra's burden. Talk about frustrating.
Right. And yet she's such a strong character. She refuses to be silenced, to let her voice be lost in the chaos. Now, from ancient Greece, we're fast-forwarding to modern-day New York City for a dose of medical suspense with Bellevue by Robin Cook.
If you're looking for a chilling thriller set in a place with a rich and often dark history, this one is for you.
The story follows Mitt Fuller, a first-year surgical resident at Bellevue Hospital. He's brilliant, but haunted by these strange patient deaths and unsettling visions.
And those visions might be connected to a dark secret about his ancestors, who were also doctors at Bellevue.
Oh, here's where it gets really creepy. It's hinted that Mitt's ancestors weren't exactly ethical in their practices.
And now, Mitt's hallucinations might be the spirits of those wronged by his family's past actions. Talk about family baggage.
Right. It makes you wonder, how far is too far in the pursuit of medical advancement, and what happens when we cross those ethical lines?
Those are some big questions, and Bellevue certainly doesn't shy away from exploring them. All right, for our final stop on this literary tour, we're jetting off to the world of Cold War espionage with Gabriel's Moon by William Boyd.
This one's for all you John le Carré fans out there. Intrigue, betrayal, and a setting that spans from the Congo to Spain.
Our protagonist, Gabriel Dax, is a travel writer who gets pulled into the shadowy world of spies and double agents.
And his life takes a very personal turn when he discovers a shocking truth about his own family. His brother, Sefton, is a double agent working for the Russians.
Talk about a plot twist. It's a betrayal that cuts deep, forcing Gabriel to question everything he thought he knew about his family and his own loyalties.
And the book doesn't shy away from the historical context either. Boyd seamlessly weaves real events, like the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, into the fictional narrative, creating a world that feels both authentic and utterly gripping.
It's a reminder that history is often stranger than fiction, and that the choices we make, even those made in the name of ideology or patriotism, can have far-reaching and unintended consequences.
Absolutely. So there you have it, 5 brand new books, 5 different worlds.
A historical mystery, a literary horror, a reimagined Greek myth, a medical thriller, and a Cold War espionage tale.
Something for everyone, right? Now, the big question is, which one will you choose?
Which world will you step into next? Okay, so we've set the stage with these 5 intriguing new releases.
But now it's time to dig a little deeper, explore some of the nuances, and uncover what makes these books truly captivating.
Let's start by revisiting The Secret of the Three Fates. What struck me, besides the compelling mystery, was how Armstrong uses the setting of Manhurst Castle to really heighten the suspense.
Oh, absolutely. That castle is practically a character itself, with its shadowy corridors, hidden passages, and secrets whispered through the ages.
It's almost like the castle embodies the weight of history, bearing witness to generations of secrets and hidden truths.
Right, you can practically feel the past breathing down your neck as Ruby investigates. And speaking of the past, I loved how Armstrong wove in elements of Scottish folklore and mythology.
Those elements add a layer of depth to the story, connecting the present mystery to ancient beliefs and traditions.
Like the three fates themselves, they become this recurring motif, symbolizing the forces of destiny that seem to be at play.
Exactly. It makes you question whether we have any control over our own lives, or if we're simply puppets dancing to the strings of fate.
Right. Are we masters of our own destinies or just pawns in a larger game?
It's a question that has haunted humanity for centuries, and Armstrong doesn't offer any easy answers.
Which, of course, makes it all the more intriguing. And then there are the year editions. Their obsession with contacting the dead adds a whole other layer of moral ambiguity to the story.
It makes you wonder, how far is too far in the pursuit of knowledge? And what are the potential consequences of tampering with the veil between life and death?
Spooky stuff. Okay, let's shift gears to Private Rights. This book, with its flooded city and relentless rain, creates such a palpable sense of unease.
It's like the city itself is drowning in sorrow, mirroring the character's own grief and turmoil.
Exactly. That constant rain isn't just weather, it's a metaphor for the emotional weight bearing down on the sisters.
And the way Armfield describes the crumbling buildings, the rising water levels, it creates this feeling of claustrophobia, like the walls are closing in.
You really get a sense of how trapped these characters feel, both physically and emotionally.
And then there's the mystery surrounding the granting ritual. What is it? Who's behind it? And why is Agnes the target?
It's like this ominous shadow hanging over the story, fueling the suspense and keeping you guessing until the very end.
And that ending. So ambiguous, so open to interpretation. It's the kind of ending that stays with you long after you've finished the book.
It makes you think, doesn't it, about the cyclical nature of life, the possibility of renewal, and the enduring power of hope, even in the face of despair. All right, now let's journey back to ancient Greece with The Voyage Home. What I find truly remarkable about this book is how Barker gives voice to those who are often silenced in traditional accounts of the Trojan War.
Exactly. She shifts the focus from the heroes and the battles to the women, the captives, the ones whose lives were shattered by the conflict.
And through their eyes, we see a different side of the war. We see the human cost, the trauma, the resilience.
It's a powerful reminder that history is often told from a single perspective,
Yeah.
and that there are always multiple sides to every story.
Absolutely. And Cassandra, with her gift of prophecy that no one believes, she becomes a symbol of the voiceless, those whose warnings go unheeded.
It's heartbreaking, but also incredibly powerful. It speaks to the importance of listening to those who are often marginalized or dismissed, and of acknowledging the truth even when it's uncomfortable.
And then there's Ritza, Cassandra's enslaved healer. She represents the possibility of compassion and healing, even amidst the horrors of war.
Her decision to help the Greek physician Machaon, despite everything she's been through, is a testament to the enduring power of human kindness.
Right. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there are always glimmers of hope and humanity.
Huh.
And that confrontation between Agamemnon and Clytemnestra, wow, talk about a power struggle.
You can feel the tension building throughout the book, and then it all comes crashing down in that final confrontation.
Clytemnestra's rage, her thirst for revenge, it's both terrifying and understandable.
It's a reminder that even in victory, there can be a tremendous cost, and that the cycle of violence, once set in motion, can be incredibly difficult to break.
Okay, from ancient Greece, let's fast forward to modern-day New York City and enter the world of Bellevue, where medicine meets mystery.
Robin Cook is a master at weaving intricate medical details into his thrillers, and Bellevue is no exception.
The way he describes the procedures, the diagnoses, the inner workings of the hospital, it's fascinating and a little bit creepy.
But what really sets this book apart is the way Cook explores the ethical dilemmas faced by those in the medical profession.
Like Mitt Fuller, our protagonist, who discovers that his own ancestors were involved in some questionable practices at Bellevue.
It forces him to confront the dark side of medical history and to question the boundaries of scientific exploration.
Right. How far is too far in the pursuit of knowledge? And what happens when those in power abuse that knowledge for their own gain?
Those are questions that are still relevant today as we grapple with advances in technology and the potential for both good and harm.
And let's not forget about those unsettling visions that Mitt starts experiencing. Are they simply hallucinations, or are they something more sinister?
That blurring of the lines between the real and the supernatural adds a layer of psychological suspense to the story, keeping you guessing until the very end.
Okay, last but certainly not least, let's talk about Gabriel's Moon.
A tale of Cold War intrigue. It's like stepping into a John le Carré novel, complete with shadowy figures, double agents, and a constant sense of paranoia.
What I loved about this book was how Boyd seamlessly blended real historical events into the fictional narrative.
He does a brilliant job of capturing the atmosphere of the Cold War era, that sense of mistrust and suspicion that permeated every aspect of life.
Right. And our protagonist, Gabriel Dax, he's not your typical spy. He's a travel writer who gets thrust into this world of espionage and intrigue.
He's an observer, an outsider, trying to make sense of this dangerous new reality.
And then there's the bombshell revelation about his brother, Sefton. Talk about family drama.
That betrayal really shakes Gabriel to his core, forcing him to question everything he thought he knew about his family and his own loyalties.
And the way Boyd describes the settings, from the lush landscapes of the Congo to the bustling streets of Madrid, it's like you're right there with Gabriel, experiencing the sights, sounds, and smells of this global adventure.
He creates a truly immersive experience for the reader.
So there you have it, 5 books, 5 different worlds, 5 unique journeys of discovery and introspection.
Each offering a glimpse into the complexities of human nature, the power of the past, and the enduring search for meaning and connection. Wow, we've really covered some ground in our deep dive into these 5 new books.
I know, right? It's amazing how each one, in its own way, has gotten us thinking about big ideas like fate, resilience, the weight of history, and the consequences of our choices.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes these books so compelling. They're not just entertaining, they're thought-provoking.
Exactly. They stay with you long after you finish reading. Okay, so let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned and maybe offer some final insights for our fellow bookworms out there.
Sounds good to me. Where should we start?
Well, how about with The Secret of the Three Fates? One thing that really struck me was how the setting, Manhurst Castle, became almost like a character itself.
Oh, totally. It's more than just a backdrop. It's like this repository of secrets holding the weight of generations past.
Right, and it creates such a palpable sense of mystery and foreboding. You can practically feel the history seeping out of the walls.
And those hidden passages. So spooky. It's like the castle itself is trying to reveal its secrets to Ruby.
Exactly. And then there are the Euryditions with their obsession with contacting the dead. I mean, talk about pushing the boundaries of knowledge and ethics.
It makes you wonder, how far is too far in the pursuit of understanding? And what are the unintended consequences of tampering with forces we might not fully comprehend?
Right. It's like they're playing with fire, and they might get burned. Okay, let's move on to Private Rights. This book, with its flooded city and relentless rain, created such a powerful metaphor for the challenges we face in our own world.
Absolutely. The sinking city becomes a symbol of societal collapse, of our collective anxieties about climate change in the future.
And the sisters, trying to survive and find meaning amidst the chaos, they represent that human instinct to persevere, to adapt, even when everything feels hopeless.
It's a story about loss and grief, but also about resilience and the power of hope.
And that ambiguous ending with the snow falling on the ruins, it leaves you with this sense of, I don't know, possibility, like maybe there's a chance for a new beginning, even after so much destruction.
Exactly. It's up to the reader to decide what that ending means, which I think is what makes it so powerful. All right, how about the voyage home? Pat Barker's reimagining of the Trojan War from the perspective of the women is just brilliant.
I know, it's such a powerful reminder that history is often told from a single perspective and that there are always multiple sides to every story.
And by focusing on the women, Barker gives voice to those who were often silenced or marginalized in traditional accounts.
And Cassandra, with her gift of prophecy that no one believes, she becomes this tragic figure representing the struggle to be heard, to have your voice matter.
It's a reminder that even when you have knowledge or insights that could make a difference, sometimes those in power choose to ignore or dismiss you.
Which is incredibly frustrating. But it also speaks to the importance of speaking truth to power, even when it feels like no one is listening.
Absolutely. And then there's Ritza, the healer, who shows us that even amidst the horrors of war, compassion and empathy can still exist.
Her decision to help the Greek physician, even though he represents the enemy, is such a powerful act of humanity.
It's a reminder that there's always hope for reconciliation and healing, even after the most devastating conflicts. Okay, let's talk about Bellevue, a medical thriller with some seriously creepy elements.
I know. The way Robin Cook blends those realistic medical details with the supernatural is masterful.
In the hospital itself, Bellevue, with its long and storied history, it becomes this character in the story, this place where the past and present collide.
Right. And the fact that Mitt Fuller, our protagonist, is descended from a long line of doctors who worked at Bellevue, that adds this whole other layer of complexity.
He's literally haunted by the legacy of his ancestors, their triumphs, their mistakes, their secrets.
And it makes you think about the ethical dilemmas faced by those in the medical profession, the power they wield, and the responsibility that comes with it.
And that's something we all grapple with, right?
Yeah.
In any profession, in any relationship, we have to make choices, and those choices have consequences, sometimes unintended ones.
Absolutely. Okay, last but not least, Gabriel's Moon, a Cold War espionage thriller that had me on the edge of my seat.
I know, right? The intrigue, the betrayal, the constant sense of paranoia. It's like stepping into a John le Carré novel.
And what I loved was how William Boyd seamlessly blended real historical events into the fictional narrative.
It gives the story this added layer of authenticity. It makes you realize that history isn't just dates and facts. It's made up of real people with real lives and real choices.
And Gabriel Dax, our protagonist, he's not your typical spy. He's more of an observer, an outsider, who gets thrust into this world of secrets and deception.
And he's forced to confront not only the betrayals of those around him, but also his own internal struggles and moral dilemmas.
And that revelation about his brother being a double agent, talk about a family secret that could rock your world.
It just goes to show that even those closest to us can have hidden agendas, and that sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.
Wow. So there you have it, folks. 5 incredible books that have taken us on a whirlwind tour of different genres, time periods, and human experiences.
We've laughed, we've cried, we've gasped in surprise, and we've definitely learned a thing or two along the way.
And I hope you have too. So what are you waiting for? Head to your local library or bookstore, grab one of these books, and get ready for an unforgettable literary adventure.
Happy reading.